Well, yes, as Caroline said, I'm Robert Brown, and I'm the executive director of a nonprofit called Young Lives Redeemed. And prior to founding Young Lives Redeemed, as Caroline said, I was an attorney and an international transactions attorney. I worked and lived in London, I worked and lived in Tokyo, and also in Los Angeles and Orange County. During that time, I also worked with at-risk youth, primarily foster youth, for about 30 years. And the foster youth that I worked with grew up in what's called institutionalized care, rather than with foster families. And at 18, foster youth generally emancipate. That's a term that refers to the legal process of no longer being a ward of the court. And at that time, foster youth are sort of turned out into the world. They have no family, they have no support structure, and they have very few available resources. I don't know if any of you here could imagine, what that would be like if you're a young person about ready to graduate from high school, or if you're a parent here, what that might be like for your child if that were to happen to them. The statistics regarding foster youth are very grim. Only approximately 1% to 2% of foster youth ever graduate from college. Some estimates as high as 85% some estimates estimate as high as 85% of foster youth within 2 to 3 years of emancipation will be incarcerated, homeless, or institutionalized. The extremely grim reality is that some of the primary reason for this is that about that same period of time, 2 to 3 years from emancipation, about 2021, many foster youth experience the symptoms of onset of mental illness like post-traumatic stress disorder, depression, anxiety, some personality disorders. And these are directly related to the trauma that they suffered as children, the abuse and neglect. They attempt to self-medicate these mental illness symptoms with alcohol and drugs. And I watched this happen, sort of from the sidelines, feeling somewhat helpless. So a few years ago, I decided to do something. And I started Young Lives Redeemed to fulfill our mission, which is to connect emancipated foster youth with trauma-informed mental health care and addiction recovery. We work in 4 areas. The first area is advocacy. We try to change dysfunctional laws that are already on the books, or we work with legislators and lobbyists to try to pass new laws that benefit former foster youth. We also do outreach and engagement. Every week we go and we visit the jails. We also go to neighborhoods where homeless foster youth are known to congregate. And we reach out to them and we seek to build trusting relationships, which is something that they're not really familiar with, because in their lives, the people they were supposed to be able to trust have pretty much let them down. When we gain their trust, we try to bring them into our program, and we offer them a way to turn their lives around. The third area in which we work is case management. So if a foster youth comes into our program, we start them on a path of a 3-stage, what we call wellness program. The first stage is to offer the foster youth an opportunity to go to inpatient therapeutic care. The predominant majority of our clients come to us from homelessness and are homelessness-related incarceration. It's homelessness-related because they're given misdemeanor tickets relating to their homelessness, and then because they don't have an address, and they don't have a job, and they don't have any money, they can't pay these fines, something that you and I would do if we got a ticket. And so it goes to what's called bench warrant. When they get pulled over by a policeman, the policeman runs their record, sees that they have a bench warrant, and takes them in. And they usually serve 3 to 6 months. So they're coming to us from, as I said, homelessness or homelessness-related incarceration. And they have a certain psychosis relating to having lived on the street and having to live in fear for their safety, to not know where they're going to sleep at night, to not know where they're going to get food. And so we find that they really need that stability and that structure of an inpatient therapeutic program, which will help them begin to stabilize and also to heal their unresolved childhood trauma. Once they've completed the therapeutic component of our program, they transition into stage 2, which is an intensive outpatient program where they continue receiving their individual therapy and their group therapy, and also therapies around healing that unresolved childhood trauma. When they stabilized in that setting, we move them into an independent living setting where they begin to re-engage with society. And that re-engagement can take several forms. One form would be that they could go back to school. I would say that most of our clients actually started off in community college or some kind of school setting, and then with the onset of the mental health symptoms, they dropped out. If they don't want to go back to school, we engage them in a vocational program where they can learn a trade. If they don't want to do that, we can connect them with one of our partner programs in some sort of a job training, in an apprenticeship or a journeyman. Finally, we can also assist them in finding living wage employment. We typically don't try to connect former foster youth with a minimum wage employment because in Southern California, trying to live on a minimum wage without any kind of support is basically just another pathway to homelessness. I'd like to describe for you a couple of our clients. I'm going to change the names to protect their privacy. The first one is a young man named Tom. Tom was one of 5 children born to a mother who made kids with 3 different fathers. And he was taken as a small child and initially placed in a foster home. As he got older, and as is very typical, he moved into what's called a group home setting, which is a 6-bed facility, single gender, very typical for adolescent foster youth. He did graduate from college, and upon graduation, he started taking community college classes, also worked at a local hotel, was able to get a car, and things were kind of humming along. However, as I said, within about 2 to 3 years of turning 18, he began to experience the onset of some mental health issues, his PTSD, having panic attacks, night terrors, had a very difficult time focusing. He began self-medicating with methamphetamine and lost the job, lost the housing, dropped out of school, became homeless. We reached out to him and encouraged him to work with us and allow us to help him. He went to a therapeutic treatment facility in Arizona. He's recently moved from the inpatient part of the program to an intensive outpatient. And I speak with him frequently on the phone, and it's very gratifying. He tells me that he first started using alcohol and smoking marijuana at about 11 years of age. He's 23 now, so this means for the first time in 12 years, he's gone for a prolonged period without using alcohol or drugs. And he says it's absolutely wonderful to sort of experience life and feel feelings and be able to engage with other people in relationship and to work at building trust. And something he said that he learned while he was in treatment, which is taking suggestion. Previously, people would say, well, why don't you do this and why don't you do that? And he'd kind of look at them and say, you don't know me and you don't know what I've been through and you don't know my life. And it was very difficult to allow people to help him. But now he's learning to take suggestions from other people, particularly people that he's learning to trust. And we really believe that we've set him on a new course and a new path of life, giving him a chance at health and happiness. The second youth I'd like to describe to you is a young man named Jimmy. Jimmy is somebody that's awaiting help from our program. He has been in and out of homelessness-related incarceration. He was one of 9 children, born to a mom who had 5 different fathers for her kids. She struggled with addiction all her life. Jimmy's father struggled with addiction and been in and out of jail his entire life. And but things sort of looked good for Jimmy when he was 18. He emancipated. He moved into transitional housing. He started community college and was earning A's and B's. He worked at a local shopping mall as a security guard. He had saved a few $1,000s in the bank. He had bought his own car for cash. You know, things were looking bright. He was even recognized by a local agency as being sort of a superstar former foster youth. But as I've described to you, about 21, began to experience the onset of symptoms of mental illness, lost the housing, lost the job, dropped out of school, became homeless, started self-medicating with alcohol and drugs. I recently got a letter from Jimmy, and I'd like to read it to you. I feel more and more nervous about the future. It's hard for me to remember things. I feel really ashamed. I've been reflecting on how I suddenly stopped talking with my little sister when she got adopted, and I started ignoring her feelings. I know she thinks I hate her. I hope she forgives me. I hate thinking of the reality that I did that to her. It's not cool. I realize too that it's all in my attitude and perception, which have been messed up by the drugs. I know this is where recovery will help me. I want to change my reality. I want to find it within me, the inner fortitude and determination to change and never have to live my parents' life. I believe I can, and right now I have to focus on right now and enjoy the journey and know that it's a process. In the beginning, it will be new and difficult. I also know that after the trials, challenges, pain, ups and downs, and poor choices, if I'm successful, I'll become a better, newer, and happier person. Young Lives Redeemed offers young people a hand up, not a handout. And if you're interested in learning more about what we do, please visit our website at younglivesredeemed.org. Thank you.